It's time for Stages of Life Radio with Dr. David Klein. Have a medical question? Call 407-422-1212. That's 407-422-1212 or text 23680.
There we go.
I know, it's crazy.
It's nice
Everything's
and quiet.
doing its own thing today.
Yeah.
You know what the neat part of this, though? It's live radio. Wait, I can, ready? Want to count the band in?
Oh, wait, the band?
Yeah,
Well, what about the peanut gallery with all the visitors with us?
Oh, they're fine.
Yeah, we have an audience here.
Right, well, hold on.
Radio audience.
Count the band in first. Ready?
Okay.
3, 2, 1. There we go.
There we go.
Like that?
I like the rhythm.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, that was Dr. David Klein, and I am Melissa Fox. And this is Stages of Life Radio, and we are live, taking your questions, your texts, and the like. You see, Dr. David Klein is from Stages of Life Medical Institute, and frankly, he is the smartest guy in the room.
Hey, it's a small room.
Well, no, don't. Yeah, for one time he's humble. I'm just going to say, for a second, it'll go away. All right, if you want to get online with us. Now, we do have our operators on duty, so they'll either take your question and relay it to us, or if you're deemed appropriate enough, we might actually get you on the air to talk with Dr. Dave, too. So that's fine. And I'm not being mean. It's just sometimes you tell them everything and we can handle it. So we don't necessarily have to have you on, hey, Dave, what's your problem? Oh, yeah, that's right. We just done, and blah, blah, blah. And Dave's on the phone, and his problem is kind of redundant. So 407-422-1212. Or you can text us, which is just as easy, where you're checking in from, and your name is usually appropriate, maybe your age too, at 23680. Dave, how was your holiday?
So far, it's excellent.
Yeah?
Yeah, this is going to be a good week for me. We try to take off between Christmas and New Year's every year. So I take the office staff, all 23 people, and kick them out. Say, here we go. Everybody gets 2 weeks vacation. Okay, which is pretty generous, actually, for a small business. Mm-hmm. But the catch is you have to take it during two particular areas. So one is between Christmas and New Year's, and the other one is the first week in July. Why? Because nothing is worse than having a small business and critical people taking off for a week and then leaving you trying to figure out how to continue to run things. So I've found over the years that this has made for much smoother operation. So I am sitting, in our rather luxurious, accommodations here, the studio of Melissa Fox, and enjoying my weekend. And then to be followed by a full week of doing nothing but gardening, relaxing, and taking emergency calls, which happen with some nauseating regularity, but that's what happens when you're a physician. So we're going to be taking calls here shortly. What's it all about? Well, it's live talk radio. That's live without a safety net. If there's a delay here, it's actually in case I drop, a curse word or two.
Right.
Never been known to happen in my life.
What?
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So what are we going to do? We'll be taking calls. What I wanted to talk about, and I think that this is an important topic, not that the other topics that we pitch out there aren't equally important, but certain times of the year, certain things that we do really have greater effect than they do at other times. Right now, people are getting ready. They're poisoning themselves with alcohol, sugar, all kinds of treats, delightful as they are, making themselves sicker, and then they do something magical in about a week from now, and that is have a New Year's resolution. I'm going to do this, that, or the other, and most of these New Year's resolutions are kept for about 2 days, and that's about the end of it. However, the intention being what it is, we're going to try to feed the monkey just a little bit. So life is a series of decisions, and they result in trajectories. So one of my favorite metaphors for this was a particular scientist by the name of Galileo, and he did a neat little experiment. The experiment was to demonstrate the effect of gravity on objects. Now, at that time, they really didn't understand what gravity was. It was enough to know that if you dropped something, it fell. That was an interesting observation. But what falls faster? A ton of brick or a ton of feathers? And what he did was he took two weights, dropped them from the Leaning Tower of Pisa, as the story goes, and they both fell and hit the ground at the same time. Now, it doesn't tell you who they hit. Okay, doesn't tell you what damage it did to what did down below, but they both fell at the same rate, and that was a big deal because after all, after repetitive experimentation, it was demonstrated that things fell at the same rate. They accelerated at the same rate. So it's not just a matter of speed, it's acceleration due to gravity. And there's certain things about our lives, our health, our metabolism that also reflect certain elements of physics. They will happen whether you believe it or not, whether you believe in it or not. You can tell me that you don't believe in gravity, and it doesn't matter because gravity doesn't care.
Still there, right?
It is there just the same.
Surprise!
It's an immutable force of nature. You can measure it. You can defy it if you believe in certain types of magical illusions, but you still have to respect the fact that when you walk, you're walking on the surface of the earth, round or flat, depending on how smart you are and how much you decided you wanted to believe what's out there. But gravity is what's keeping you connected. So what is it about medicine? What is it about nutrition? What is it about decisions that you make that have very much the same effect? So here's how we're going to take this. Doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. Doesn't matter what your chiropractor told you or your hairdresser. It doesn't matter what your 5th grade teacher told you. There's certain things that really remain truthful. And as we go through life, as we study more, things that we believed were truth just as quickly can be dispelled. But it doesn't mean they're not important. It just simply means we understand more about them. So when I was a kid, when I was in high school, when I was in college, it was, well, gee, nobody really knows how aspirin works. To this day, people come and tell me, well, nobody really knows how aspirin works, because that individual's ability to read, study, or interpret what's going around seemed to stop maybe 40 years ago. Yeah, we do know how aspirin works. We do know how viruses enter the body. We do know how bacteria replicate. We understand how we can make cancers and how we can kill them. So it doesn't really matter that you don't know that. The fact is that it is known. And if you have the wherewithal, you can find out for yourself. You can actually read about it. So life's trajectories reflect truths. If you're an artillery guy from the Army, you're going to know that if you want to get a maximal distance range from that field piece or your sidearm or your long arm, that you set it about 45 degrees. That's going to get it out there the furthest. Now, these are not self-projectiles, okay, things like shoulder-held weapons. That's a little bit different. So those of you out there that are looking at recoilless rifles will understand that I get it too. But when it comes to a standard fire, 45 degrees will get you the furthest range. In life, range translates into longevity or into productivity or performance. The longer that you're able to perform as a professional athlete, the longer you're going to continue to get a paycheck for it. The longer that you can continue to broadcast as a professional, the longer you will get paid for it. Physicians, same thing. The longer you stay in practice, or if you want to stay in practice, the more you get paid. It's true of everything. The longer you live, the more you produce. The longer that you live, the more that you will do. So what's this about? Why do I care, and what am I building up to? And what I'm building up to is this, is that there are things that you can do now that are going to make great changes in your life, make you work better, harder, faster, happier, and with fewer disease states in 10 years, 5 years, 4 years, 2 years, 6 months from now. It's fun getting patients diabetics. It's a gas. I just absolutely love it when I get them off of insulin. You're not supposed to be able to do that, Doc. Yeah, you can. Oh, you most certainly can. You have to understand that there are reasons why people become diabetic, and if you fall into one of those categories, you too can get off of insulin. High blood pressure. Why did you get it? Do you think it's magical? Depression. Why do you think you have it? It's nothing magical. Osteoporosis. It's fun reversing osteoporosis without using these bisphonates that make your teeth fall out. And we're going to get around to discussing these things after these important announcements.
We have some texts about gut health and biopsies of the prostate, which we just talked about last week. So lots of stuff coming on here that we will address.
Self-prostate exam. We're going to get around to that.
407-422-1212. Go ahead and give us a call as well, because we got an operator standing by. This is Stages of Life Radio. We are live right now. It's a little bit after, it's 4:16 on News Radio WFLA Orlando. Yay, I put some on. Hi, Dr. Klein and Mrs. Fox. I'm Kevin.
Fox.
58. Have a question about ED. I knew what that meant, but he wrote it out.
Yeah, you're right. Well, good for him. No, you define your abbreviations. He's correct.
My hormone levels are normal. What can I do to get better?
Okay. There are a number of reasons why people can develop ED, and what hormones and what those levels are really depend on what you checked. So what hormones may be involved? Testosterone is the one that you generally check. That's fine. But what's your estrogen level doing? So the estradiol ratio, the testosterone to estradiol ratio needs to be right, or the hydraulics don't work. Very, very simple, very straightforward. What's your progesterone doing? Progesterone is an aromatase inhibitor. So when you have enough progesterone, the balance seems to work. But there are other things, other hormones that you may not be checking. Prolactin is one of my favorite ones, looking for ED and lack of libido. Now, if you're diabetic, insulin levels are wickedly important. So you need to know your insulin, and you need to know your blood sugar. I don't really care so much about your A1C, but I really do care about your insulin to glucose ratio. What about your thyroid? So I'm glad to hear that your hormone levels are normal, but I hardly think that you actually looked at it very thoroughly. After that, you look at vasculature and you look at nitric oxide balance. And so there are a bunch of things you can do to fix ED. Does it work every time? The answer is no. Nothing works every time. But it's remarkable how well you can do this if you're consistent in your diet and you're consistent in the way you treat it. So, yeah, Kevin, this is going to be a whole show. We're going to do a whole show on ED. So if you follow us on Facebook, which I think you might be, then what we're going to do is you're going to see an announcement for it. It'll either be on Connections Show, which we do every other Thursday night, or it'll be on this one, or both, depending on my mood.
Huh.
Okay.
Or it could be on Florida Roundtable. I just
Florida Roundtable's a good one.
Heard the show at 6 o'clock this morning on one of our sister stations, Real Radio 104.1. I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah, they recruited me to start doing those. And so, yeah, we'll do 15 minutes and all kinds of different things. And we bounce those all over the state and elsewhere.
Hey, Rob.
Yeah.
Good to hear from you.
So
Yeah.
what else we got?
Well, right now, that was actually the first question we had on Facebook. We have about 15 or so people that are actually intently listening and hanging on every word.
Yeah.
My name is Brandy. I'm still fascinated by that.
Actually, she may have been somebody that I met at one of these gentlemen's clubs. I'm not sure. No, actually not. I don't remember anybody the name of Brandy, and I deny being there.
7 o'clock.
Never was there.
Wait.
Well, actually, she was asking about fertilizing citrus. That can't be me. Okay.
It's like 7 o'clock this morning. Okay.
So in any event, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a few little things that we can recommend in the new year, things that I'd like you to consider. And it's not going to just be, I'm going to stop smoking. Great. Good idea. Listen to your mom. She was correct. Right. Alcohol, bad news. Drugs, bad news. Get enough sleep. Great. We just covered that nonsense. So what are we going to look at? We're going to look at very, very specific things. And so far as the ED is concerned, that is going to be one of our topics, because nothing is worse than not being able to have a good, successful date. You think? It's very hard. Women are lucky in that regard. They can fake it.
It is.
It's kind of hard.
Yeah, you know what? Faking it is no fun either. I mean,
I didn't say it was fun.
Yeah, it's.
But at least socially, it's acceptable.
Honest.
No, it's in some cases it's expected.
We gotta.
I dated a lot.
Get back to the radio now.
Oh yes.
So we're gonna do that. Yeah. Jeez. Yeah. By the way, if you're leaving this off of Facebook, hang on. Here we go. Welcome back, Stages of Life Radio here on News Radio WFLA Orlando. I am Melissa Fox, along with Dr. David Klein from Stages of Life, medicalinstitute.com. You can check that out. The offices are in Longwood, Florida. Also, you've got some other places up near the coast there.
Yeah, well, what we have
First Coast.
Yeah, we have a draw station, a laboratory in St. Augustine, and then a full lab in Jacksonville. We have the second story of the VA hospital. That's us. Florida Laboratory Analysis. I'm a principal there and the medical director. Wouldn't you know?
Yeah. And Laura,
That's easy for you to say.
It was really, it flowed. I mean,
yes,
I don't know
impressed.
if you noticed. Thank you.
Did you know I really couldn't pick out the language.
Follow it. Yeah, follow that, Doc. No, Florida Laboratory Analysis actually is doing rapid turnaround still for the COVID-19 testing. So if you spent some time, like, mother's worth it.
Did I make mommy sick? Is an even better question.
Mm-hmm. There's a COVID hotline if you're interested. I'm not pushing, but seriously, a lot of people were like, mother is worth it for the holidays.
Well, at least she thinks it's worth it. So, COVID is not gone. I'm still waiting for my inoculation. Okay, I'm in this group 1A. I see hot patients all day long, and I see patients that are infected too, for that matter. And so, it'd be really important for my office, other offices, similar offices, to get inoculations. Sure. But wouldn't you know, where do they go? The inoculations went to the hospital systems. So who do they take care of? The hospital nurses, the hospital docs, the technicians, the janitorial staff, the food service staff, the secretaries, they're all getting their shots very nicely. But the rest of us out in the community, we're on our own. So if there's anybody out there, that has anything to say to Orlando Health, Orlando, whatever they're called, and or Adventist, suggest that they be a little bit more, that they share, that what they have actually isn't theirs. Those of us in the community that paid taxes also paid for this.
Well,
don't you think?
I made the point earlier because, of course, those of you just tuning in, I was like, I recognize that. That's Melissa and me on Good Morning Orlando a couple of times over the last few months when they were like, okay, we're going to do first responders. And I said, what about the guy that delivers my pizza, the guy that delivers the packages, the gals, and those people who are constantly running around neighborhoods in and out of their vans, meeting hundreds of people on a regular basis daily? Shouldn't they be getting the vaccine before?
And the hairdressers. That way Nancy Pelosi can get out there and get her hair done.
She
It doesn't end. What about the clerks over at Walmart or the clerks over at Costco or whatever? So when you're in large areas, wearing a mask behind a thickness of acrylic, you know what I mean? The likelihood of you being sprayed is pretty small. Sure. But when you're drawing blood from people and you're within, let's say a meter of them, a yard or less, you got their hand, you got their face, whatever you're doing to deal with somebody, you're really up close and personal. And you can say, well, what about your personal protective equipment? Well, if it were so effective, then why did so many doctors and nurses at the hospitals come down with it? And more so is, why did the hospitals refuse to test their personnel to see if they even have it? So think about that for a second. There are areas where they could have done the testing, but they refused to test their own people because they didn't want to know.
407-422-1212 is the number if you want to call in, say, hey, got a question for the doc. We've got some texts, 23680, again, 23680. You can text us. And here's one. When would you need to do a biopsy of the prostate gland? Okay,
you're looking at a difference in the discretion of the doctor goes something like this. Age, the rapidity with which the prostate-specific antigen or PSA accelerates. So if you draw a PSA in somebody in their 50s and they have a PSA of 6, that's elevated. So you're going to think about it at that point. Typically what I do is I look at the situation, and the first thing I'll do is I'll start them on antibiotics and see whether or not the PSA drops. If the PSA drops, that's a fairly good indicator that there's an infection going on. And I'll continue to treat the infection and watch this PSA drop. If the PSA continues to drop, you avoid a biopsy. On the other hand, if you've got somebody that's a good deal older, let's say somebody in their 70s and they have an elevated PSA, you think the same thing. You put them on a 3-week course of maybe doxycycline, and if the PSA doesn't drop, those people are really candidates to have a biopsy.
What would the PSA, like you said, 6 for a younger person? What would your
really
elevated
depends.
be for an older person?
It could be as little as 3, 2.5, 3, 4 in that range. But you don't really need to jump the gun. Prostate cancer is a very, very slow-growing cancer. Just the way these things operate. So you have time. But prostate infection, prostatitis, suppurative prostatitis is very common. About a third of the men walking around at the age of 50 have E. coli prostatitis that sits there. And what happens if you go ahead and do a prostate biopsy in one of these individuals? It spreads the infection. So their PSAs go up even more. They find out that it's a negative biopsy, but the PSA goes up. Well, gee, you mean that those 10 punch biopsies, not one of which feels good, I won't warn you, it further spreads the infection. So there is a time and there's a place for it, but get a second opinion. But my general feeling about that is you always start off with something basic like an antibiotic and then see what the response is.
Of course.
Yeah. So, but in any event, more importantly, okay, there are ways that you can actually prevent prostatitis. There are ways that you can prevent ED. One of our texters was interested in mentioning erectile dysfunction. And what are the sorts of things we can do for the general population to deal with these things? Now, let's say that we have high blood pressure. High blood pressure is a very common problem. You'd have to agree. Everybody knows somebody that's high blood pressure. You may have high blood pressure. Men that have high blood pressure have an opportunity. And the opportunity is to treat their prostate and their blood pressure at the same time with the same medicine. This is called a twofer, okay? That's a technical term we use in medicine to say that we're going to treat two things for the price of one. A twofer. You never see that anyplace else. All right? And so what are we talking about? We're talking about using a medication called prazosin or another one called terazosin that are marvelous blood pressure medications that have other salutary, that means good effects, as well as shrinking the prostate.
I appreciate the fact that you dumb it down for me.
I'm not dumbing it down. I'm being facetious, actually, because that's a reflection of my sense of humor. Without getting whacked. So how these things work. So what I'll do is if somebody comes in and they wake up 2 or 3 or 4 times at night, which is a sign that the prostate may be a little bit wonky, that how
that's
it
a
goes,
medical term
enlarging. Could be causing a little pressure on the urethra, a little pressure on the mechanism by which you maintain your continence. And I'll start them on prazosin, very low doses of prazosin, very low doses of terazosin, and then creep it upwards, counting the number of times that they wake up in the middle of the night to pee. And using that as a guide, I will increase the dosage until the blood pressure comes down to where I want it or I feel comfortable with it, being too low maybe, and if they back down to 1 episode per night of nocturia. Nocturia just means waking up at night to pee. Now, is that necessarily a big deal? The answer is yes. If you're used to waking up 3 or 4 times, backing it down to 1 and fixing blood pressure for as little as $5 a month, you want to do this. So what does it do? It improves your life's trajectory. Estrogen levels in men rise with age. So as a New Year's resolution, okay, mine is going to be, I am going to further lower my estrogen. Why would this be important? Because of that same prostate. Estrogen makes the prostate grow. It's like fertilizer for that little gland, which is there for a reason, but it can sometimes become a bit of a nuisance, kind of like a kid. They're great when they're quiet, and when they start to act up, they're not so marvelous, right? This is the season, right? Little Johnny's out there. Let's give him some more chocolate, okay, and a lot more sugar, and then watch him tear the house up, and then you wonder why. Okay, it's time for mommy and daddy's medicine, if you get my drift.
Right.
So what we're going to do is lower the estrogen, and you can do this nutritionally. Now the bodybuilders are going to go, well, you can go get an estradiol if you like man boobs, sometimes known as gynecomastia to the medical profession. That's a marvelous idea. Or you can do it naturally, and we'll talk about that first off in the next segment.
Correct. Dr. Dave will be taking new patients right after the holidays. So to start the process or to just check up on any of the stuff that he said, Stages of Life MedicalInstitute.com. There's a live radio show every Sunday afternoon from 4 until 5 o'clock. Right here on News Radio WFLA Orlando. Gonna take a quick break, check the news, traffic, and I believe weather together. So stay right there. So silly.
Back in the day, I wanted to do the news. I wanted to do the traffic.
Yeah.
That was the first thing that I wanted to do at WWDC, which was Radio 1260 outside of Washington, D.C.
How'd that work
FM
out?
101. Well, actually, it turns out that I didn't do it. They wouldn't let me do it. I was too young.
Oh.
Maybe my voice was too squeaky. Maybe the fact that I was in high school probably implied that I wasn't reliable. They knew me. So I ended up producing a radio show for Shelby Whitfield, the voice of the Washington Senators. And that was my first radio gig.
That's kind of cool.
It is kind of cool. Yeah, 16 years old. It was kind of fun being in there, watching things happen. And in D.C., there were a lot of things happening.
Speaking of watching things happen, if you're watching us on our social media, not just listening, because this is the radio break, so the doc is free for a couple of minutes to address some questions.
Tell dirty jokes.
Yeah, exactly. Tell the goofball jokes.
Dad jokes sometimes. Yeah.
So anyway, I don't want to take away from that. I just wanted to explain that for the moment we are not live on the radio, but at a certain point then we simulcast, and we actually have one of your buddies on the phone, the George Cadillac George.
Cool, Cadillac George.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I'm Cadillac Dave.
Yeah.
So yes.
Oh, I know. But he's on the phone. He's just holding out there. Something about a colonoscopy. So this.
Oh, he still hasn't had that done?
I don't know why he keeps dragging it out.
Well, heck, he doesn't want anybody messing with that thing down there, and I can't hardly blame him. You know, I had a colonoscopy.
Yeah,
Okay, so
I've had one too.
They knock you out, do unmentionable things to your rear end, and then wake you up.
But you know what? Here's the thing. That wasn't the worst part. They had like the green color too big for the anesthesia to keep me awake. Yeah. Jammed it too far up into my nose, adenoids, whatever.
They're getting ready for COVID.
All I know is when they pulled that out, that hurt more than my asshole. Excuse me. We still,
okay. Yeah,
we're still
here they come.
dressed up.
FCC's at the door.
Anyway, it's a colonoscopy we're talking about, people. Yeah. All right, come on. I mean, it's just not a surprise as to where it would hurt. But it didn't. It was my nose. Because they jammed that so far in, I woke up and I'm like,
you're still angry about it.
Yeah, I'm still angry about it.
Well, the definition of a colonoscope, right?
Not in my nose.
It's a long silver instrument with a rear end at both ends.
Listen. I am talking about the nose part, though. They hurt my nose.
Yeah, but a colonoscopy, okay, the routine colonoscopy you think is not that big a deal. The prep takes 2 days out of your life on the front end, but a certain number of people don't do well with it. Perforation of the colon can happen, and when it does, it can be life-threatening. Mm-hmm. So when you go in and do colonoscopy, don't go in there and think that it's necessarily 100% easy. There's something out there called Cologuard, which is what I recommend to my patients now. Marvelous thing, where you poop into this plastic device. We call it the plastic hat, because that's kind of what it looks like. Great. And you ship it to the lab, and they look for colonic cancer DNA. And that is very, very sensitive, and nobody ever dies or ends up with additional surgery from doing this.
Well, you're not going to
However, if you don't seal the container up real well, somebody on the receiving end will wish to kill you.
These are these stories.
Yeah, you got to seal the thing.
Meanwhile, in the commercial, it's some cute little poop box. Ah, la, 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 la.
Yeah.
All you do is
there it is. There it is. It's dancing on the screen right now.
Oh, looks like it's time to go. What? Did she say that? No, I did not. Anyway. It's time to talk again. We've got George, and we're coming back to the radio dealio. And right now they're playing a disclaimer on the radio going, we have nothing to do.
Good move there. FLA, about 30 minutes late.
Welcome back. Stages of Life Radio. How are you? Dr. David Klein, and I am Melissa Fox. You can follow us both. Yeah, why not follow me first? Melissa Fox Radio. You're on Parler, right?
Yes.
Yes. Follow us both on Parler. Why not? What's yours?
I think it's David S. Klein.
I think it is too. David S. Klein. That's with the E and the I in the middle, not the other way around.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, and the phones are, actually, we got someone on the horn right now. One of your friends. Let's see if we can get him here. Cadillac, Dave, Cadillac George.
Cadillac George, how you doing there, bro?
Hey, Doc, how you doing?
I'm feeling pretty darn awesome. It's been a great weekend.
That's great. I'll make it as short as possible, Doc.
Okay.
About a little over a month ago, I went to the bathroom. I pulled my underwear down. They were soaked with blood.
Oh.
Red blood, okay?
All right.
For some divine reason, I didn't worry. But I went to see the doc. We scheduled a colonoscopy and an endoscopy.
All right.
And no polyps, no diverticulitis. What do you think?
I think you had hemorrhoids. You either had a hemorrhoid or fissure. Yeah. So bright red blood coming out into the commode like that is most commonly hemorrhoids or a fissure. Once in a while, you'll find somebody with a bleed from colitis. That can happen. So you can have hemorrhagic colitis. You can end up with a foreign body actually tear into it. There are a number of ways that you can bleed from that end. But really the most common presentation for you and for that situation would have been hemorrhoids. And so, boom, the thing bleeds. Looks terrible. You'd think that you were just bleeding all over the place. It probably wasn't more than a thimble full of blood, and you would think
it only happened one time, and then it did. But anyway, I wanted to check it out.
That's what. Well, you did the right thing. Now, George, when it comes to doing things like colonoscopy, now you've just had yours done, so they went in there, looked around, make sure that you didn't have a cancer. That's really what they're worried about. But annually or every other year, you're going to want to do something called a Cologuard.
Oh.
A Cologuard's kind of
I've done that.
Yeah, well,
I've done that.
Yeah, well, you need to do it every couple of years.
Okay.
And what this does is it's a non-invasive, very inexpensive, like you're on Medicare. I know you well enough to know this. And so it's going to cost you nothing.
Right.
Absolutely nothing. You poop in the plastic container, sometimes known as a plastic hat. Seal it properly, otherwise somebody will be mad at you on the receiving end, and they will run the test on it, and you'll get a note back from them that'll tell you whether or not you have anything to worry about or not. And
well,
so
this will be my third colonoscopy I've had.
Well, you must.
So,
they're going to give you a frequent
not my
flyer.
first rodeo.
Yeah, no, I got it. I mean, really, you must either like it, or, I mean, you never know.
Hey, Doc, it's the prep that I hate.
The what?
The prep.
The prep. Oh, the prep. Oh, that's always everybody's favorite part of this. Yeah, it's 2 days of horror. It's kind of like, well, I want you to read this thing. Yeah. And then the gastroenterologist leaves very quickly while you're trying to read this thing. And what it boils down to is we are going to make you have running diarrhea for 2 days so we can do this procedure, which, by the way, is exactly accurate. You want it to be clean. So, they're doing the right thing. Yeah, when I was in general surgery before I did anesthesia.
It wasn't bad at all.
Yeah, well,
it's bad. I mean,
I hated it. I had it done, hated it. It was misery. God. Yeah, so I'm going to do the next Cologuard for me.
Can't the make it so that prep make it taste a little better?
Are you kidding? Then people would want to do it too frequently, George. Yeah, I mean, really. No, it's much more fun, okay, to give people diarrhea that have fissures, because then every time they go to the bathroom, they sting. It's supposed to teach you what your rear end's for. So, George, you be well, my friend, and have a good, healthy, safe New Year. Good dude. Yeah. So, but he did the right thing. You look down and you see blood in the commode. It's not supposed to be there.
Right.
So what are we going to do in the new year? What are the things that we are going to do? We're going to lower our triglycerides. Why do you want to lower your triglycerides? Everybody focuses on cholesterol. What's the good cholesterol? What's the bad cholesterol? Much ado about very little. You want to keep your cholesterol really under 220. If you can do that, most everything else is okay. Now, but it's associated with an increased risk of X, Y, and Z. The increased risk is so overblown with regards to the number of people that actually may get sick that it's insane. However, when you're taking statins, and this is my opinion, and it doesn't reflect the opinion of the station, although it should. It may not reflect the opinion of your doctor, and I would hope it would. But when you take statins, all kinds of really bad things tend to happen. The muscle aches, that's not a joke. If your muscles are aching from the statins, it's telling you that something is wrong. If the nerves aren't working right, and this happens if you take them long enough, something went wrong. You end up with cardiac dysrhythmias, and it's associated with changes in mentation, sometimes known as dementia. So why does this happen? Because it decreases a very important hormone called pregnenolone, and wouldn't you know it, it's formed from cholesterol. Cholesterol converts to pregnenolone, sometimes known as the memory hormone, and then 150 other adrenal hormones follow that, including testosterone, estrogen, cortisol, androstenedione, DHEA, and 140 other hormones, to boot, all wound up. So when you start poisoning that system, it starts causing and creating problems for you. So I managed to get my cholesterol down into the 160s. I'm 66 years old. I have and I did this nutritionally. That doesn't mean that I'm not out there eating, because I just ate 3 eggs this morning, and I'll do that frequently. Why would I do this? Okay, because it's not the dietary cholesterol that causes it. That's 20% of your cholesterol value comes from what you eat. The rest of it is made by the liver. So when you see an elevation in cholesterol, you can almost be assured that there's something wrong with your liver, not necessarily directly, It could be indirect, like hypothyroidism. So that is generally how I knock my patients' cholesterols down into the 160s, 170s. And it's by fixing the thyroid issue, the underlying problem. So when you're taking a statin, much better ways to deal with it. But triglycerides are more fun because when they get to be elevated, it's pro-inflammatory. It can actually make other issues worse. So you lower triglycerides. So one of my New Year's resolutions, sitting, in a conference with my wife, not Congress, but in conference. Okay, just to clarify matters. I know. You got to be careful what you say on the air. And so we were discussing what we were going to do in the new year and who we were going to do it to. And one of those things was to lose weight and to make ourselves healthier. Now, we're both pretty healthy right now. Okay, so it's just a matter of polishing the apple a little bit. So what are we going to do? We're going to lower our triglycerides. How do we do this? We do this by eliminating trans fats from our diet. And these are the things that are lipid, oil, and whatnot, but that are solid at room temperature. By and large, things like margarine. It's poison. Margarine is poison. Absolutely bad stuff for you. Eat butter if you have to have something. Right. Olive oil better. But margarine, if you want to have some fun. This is in Florida. We can do this. I was running around without shoes on this afternoon. Those of you up north that are listening to us, too bad for you. No soup for you. And so, but if you put a pat of butter beside a margarine and stick it on a plate and put it outside, here we have these insects and lots of them. The insects ignore the margarine, eat the butter. They are smarter than we are. Okay, think about that. Yeah. Okay, the flies won't even touch the margarine. You can leave margarine at room temperature for a year and nothing will happen. You can probably find it in the pyramids. Okay, they were buried with the pharaohs and it's still there ready to be spread. So what we're going to do is we're going to lower your triglycerides and prolong your life. Lower your triglycerides, help you with your arthritis. Lower your triglycerides and help you with your heart disease. I feel
a pattern here.
There you go.
All right, we're almost up against a break here. Sarah's watching us, and I say watching because we are actually broadcasting your mug on all kinds of social media.
Frightening.
Yeah, just search Stages of Life Medical Institute on Facebook or what have you. But Sarah, she said, could you explain the Cologuard poop hat method so that you don't have to ever have anyone suffer through the colonoscopy prep or nasal passage trauma, which I had explained off air.
Okay, what you do is you go to your doctor, okay, because you have to get an order to get the Cologuard. So you go to the doctor, say, gee, Dr. Jones, can you please do a Cologuard for me? And then we'll discuss the technique when we come back in a moment.
Oh, look at that.
Hey, I'm getting good at this.
It's a tease. I like that. It's good. We are live, by the way, and we will take a call if you like, 407-422-1212. I'm so excited to talk about the poop hat method when we come back. Melissa Fox, Dr. David Klein from Stages of Life Medical Institute. Yeah, he's off this next week, but right after the beginning of the year.
We're opening things up again.
Yeah, everything will be wide
We will be
open.
taking new patients after the first of the year.
Fair enough. This is News Radio WFLA Orlando. I cannot find the button. Wait, here we go. It's here somewhere. Button. Who's got the button? Wait, no. I still can't find it. Okay, hold on. This is fun. For some. Where the heck is the button? Okay. All right, wait. I really cannot find the button. Wait.
Just live radio.
I got it.
There we go.
What's funny is it's only like a 2-minute break.
Oh, there we go. So we just clipped 15 seconds from Safe. What do you call it? Safe Right or whatever they're called? The
Safe Harbor.
No, the security people, the ones that.
Oh.
Yeah, one of our better sponsors actually. So I shouldn't poke fun at them. Maybe I would.
Maybe you would. Hold on, I'm doing math. I can't do math, boss.
Not in real time.
I really can't. Okay, all right, shush. Wait, I'm counting.
Well, we did have a 2-minute break.
I wasn't kidding. Hold on, I'm still doing math. Wait. Okay, 6:40. Oh, I did good. Okay, hey, welcome back, everybody. I can count backwards from 60. You know what? And that's what my college education taught me.
There you go.
Is how to back time.
Back it out. Oh, you got to love it.
Still paying for that.
All right. So how much? So how much?
1 minute.
1 minute to go. Okay. In 1 minute, what can I do? All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little tease for the next segment.
Okay.
The segment's going to be how do you prevent and how do you treat osteoporosis without taking bisphonates? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to satisfy, I think her name was Sarah, about how do you get the poop into the plastic without making a mess. Okay. And it's surprisingly easy. And why? She probably got checked for parasites at one point. They gave her a little tiny thing to put her poop in. Okay? And so you have to go fishing around in the commode with a spatula. And it's really, unless you like that sort of thing, it is pretty disgusting. But with the Cologuard, it's very, very easy. They made this thing. Whoever came up with this idea was brilliant.
Is that the one with the cartoon poop box?
Yeah, the cartoon poop box.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah. Very smart people. Easy. I wish I had done that. I wish I'd figured that out.
Come on, poop in a box?
Well, I pooped in a box before.
You probably did fit.
Yeah, that's what we used to do, is these terrible jokes to people. Yeah, once upon a time I was an adolescent too.
Seriously, people.
To my wife, I still am.
Yes. No, she usually doesn't let us hang out together.
No, she's smart.
No, very smart. Oh, goodness. Welcome back. Wow, that was so quick. Hi, everybody. It's Melissa Fox and Dr. David Klein from Stages of Life Medical Institute. Do join me tomorrow morning, won't you, as I wrestle in Simon Conway if you're working in the morning.
There you go.
For Good Morning Orlando. Should be interesting. God knows what I'll say. Hey. So, Dave, we have so many things to address.
Okay, well, the first thing.
Poop in a box.
Okay, because one of our callers from Facebook asked, how exactly, do you get the poop into the box without causing a mess? So this individual, probably has a history where they had to do fecal analysis for either ova and parasites. In other words, she may have had a GI issue. They wanted to make sure that she didn't have something growing in there. So they give you a little tiny container. It looks like an ice cream container. And these wooden spatulas, which are reminiscent of the spoons that we used to use to eat those Dixie cups, right?
Oh, yeah,
disgusting.
The little ice cream in a cup.
Terrible things. Okay, for those of us that remember these things, it is a miserable way to destroy those pleasant childhood memories. And then you poop in the commode, and then you fish around to get enough. It's awful. That's the way it used to be. So these guys over at Cologuard figured out, or gals, who knows who did it. It's gender nonspecific. It invented this.
Somebody mean.
Where it's a piece of plastic, a large container, and then it sits on the commode seat. You sit it down, and then you sit on top of that, and you let it rip. Okay, you seal it up and put it in the box, and out she goes. It couldn't be any easier.
Oh.
Truly, you don't have to touch it, you don't have to play with it, you don't have to smear it, and you certainly don't have to package it.
You know, I'm pretty sure if your wife was here, she would have papped you on the shoulder
I'll get
by
whacked.
now.
I'll get whacked when I get home.
That was enough.
I kind of like it, actually, truth be told. So that's how that's done.
Okay.
Now, what I wanted to talk about is how do you prevent osteoporosis? And if you have osteoporosis or osteopenia, how do you treat it? How do you make it better without having to poison yourself? Now, in medicine, we poison patients on a regular basis with some alacrity. When you're giving an antibiotic, you're giving a poison. The difference is that it poisons the virus, it poisons the bacteria, it poisons the parasite more than it poisons you. That's the difference. It is an antibiological. It is just the way these things work. Looking at insecticides, what they do is they poison insects more than they poison you. These insecticides all started off with a German scientist by the name of Schraden, who invented something called nerve gas. And so then it was changed to handle pseudocholinesterase. Let's see, was it? In any event, it's an anticholinesterase acting medication, but we have pseudocholinesterase, and so it will in fact destroy some of these pesticides before they destroy you, unless you're unfortunate biologically, and that does happen.
Okay.
So all of these things are poisons. The rate, route, and amount define the difference between a nutrient and a poison. So what do? In looking at osteoporosis, we don't want to be taking bisphonates necessarily, although they will poison the bone creation system, destruction creation, the cycle, and that will slow down the progression of osteoporosis, sure enough. If you don't mind it killing your bone, if you don't mind it killing your mandible, if you don't mind it killing your hip. There are people that will end up with hip fractures as a result of this by trying to fix their osteoporosis. There's sort of a paradox there, don't you think? It's very, very strange. You're treating something, but by destroying it and making it worse, it doesn't work. So what can you do? And what can you do affordably? And what can you do predictably? You fix that which is missing. You take that which is what's causing the osteoporosis to begin with. First thing, if you're a woman, you got to get your estradiol level up to at least a measurable level because it's supposed to be there. So a little bit of estradiol goes a long way in the prevention of osteoporosis, dementia, as well as heart disease. A little bit of estradiol is all it takes. Now, men don't need a little bit of estradiol because they've already got too much. Life is not fair that way. Vitamin K2, vitamin D3, and something called, magic, maestro, called chelated strontium. Now, strontium is a mineral. People go, oh, well, I've never heard of strontium. It's a mineral. It's supposed to be there. It's something that we are supposed to have. Now, the old timers remember strontium from the radioactive strontium. So in case of an atomic bomb, you have to worry about getting strontium, radioactive strontium into the bone. That caused a problem because you really didn't want radioactivity in your bone or any place else for that matter. They forgot the radioactive when they start talking about strontium or thinking about, well, I don't want strontium. Oh, no, I definitely don't want that. No, you don't want radioactive strontium. So as long as you avoid atom bombs, you're in pretty good shape. So the fact that there haven't been too many of those recently.
Fair enough.
Thank God for
duck
that.
And cover.
Okay, duck and cover. Okay. What you do is you need strontium to harden the bone. As we get older, okay, if you live long enough to get older, you will start to develop osteopenia, then osteoporosis because of a relative strontium deficiency, not a calcium deficiency. People take calcium. I need more calcium because my bones are melting away. If that were true, then as an adult, you eat better than your teenage kids, and yet they're growing and you're diminishing. It is not calcium. It makes no intellectual sense. But strontium does. As you get older, your gastrointestinal tract decreases in its efficiency. So the strontium that's supposed to be in our groundwater is not absorbed enough to harden your bone. It's there like rebar is to concrete.
Oh.
The rebar is necessary for the concrete to have its hardness and to have its durability. That's how we ended up with these skyscrapers in New York and elsewhere. Up until that point, the tallest building that you could come up with using poured concrete was the Colosseum in Rome. 4 stories. That was it. Because it's a liquid. It doesn't hold well. It's like pouring very thick mud. So that's the way we do it. So vitamin K2, D3, and strontium. Now, those of you that are les savants out there are going to go, what about boron? What about silicon? What about magnesium, manganese, and whatnot? And the answer is, of course, you need the other micronutrients also.
Okay.
But if you can get by eating properly and strontium, K2, and D3, you're going to harden your bone. And we see it taking as little as 6 weeks, but usually it's about 6 months, and you can pick off a half a Z-score on your bone density very, very quickly and without causing damage, without causing a lot of money, costing money. It's very interesting.
Yeah. A lot of extra questions left over here. As usual, we have a little time left here. But
I can knock them down pretty quickly if you want.
How do you lower estrogens in men?
Easy. Okay. Use an aromatase inhibitor, something that I use called diendomethane. We have a product called Nomo-Whining. You take it twice a day. Sometimes you take two of them twice a day, and it will lower estradiol and raise testosterone. Easily done. In women, I use silymarin, which is milk thistle. You have to be very, very careful with it because if you go too fast, it can lower the estrogen in women way too quickly. So silymarin increases the excretion of estrogen esters in the bile in the small bowel. It decreases the production of it using diendomethane.
Cool. And maintaining gut health.
Easy. First thing you want to do is to avoid antibiotics unless you are absolutely in dire need of it. Walking into the doctor's office, I have a sore throat, give me an antibiotic. You deserve having lousy gut health.
Stop.
Okay, it's the way it works. So what do you want to do? It takes a year to mend the gut after a single round of antibiotics. Just think that one through. Every time you take a single antibiotic pill, it increases your risk of developing diabetes. So these are bad news. So what do you want to do? First thing is a probiotic is very, very beneficial. What type? This is beyond the scope of this conversation right here because it depends on the individual. Then you have to feed the probiotic using something called a prebiotic, and I use a very interesting approach to that. It's called Del Monte Zucchini Squash, and it comes in a can for $2.
Oh, come on now.
Yeah.
He's right. StagesOfLifeVitamins.com if you want to check out more information on anything that the doc was talking about. Just type in estrogen or you know the deal. Hey, Doc, have a wonderful holiday, and we'll see you in the new year next Sunday.
Yes, indeed. We'll talk to you then.
Later.
Be well.
You've been listening to Stages of Life Radio with Dr. David Klein. Check out stagesoflifemedicalinstitute.com or stop by 1917 Booth Circle in Longwood near the intersection of I-4 and 434. Call 407-679-3337. That's 407-679-3337. Dr. Klein accepts most insurance and Medicare too. Join us next Sunday at 4 p.m. on News Radio WFLA Orlando.